Everybody lie, hey, shake your body. Ooh, oh, oh. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Everybody lie. Ooh, la la la. Hey, 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 hey.
Thank you, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I am Almaz Negash with the African Diaspora Network. It's always a pleasure to have anyone who's here who's supposed to be here, and we're very grateful to each and every one of you. Today is a special day, so every year on Giving Tuesday, we all celebrate the day in our own way. This is also ADN's way of saying thank you to those of you who have believed in us and carried us through the last 11 years. This didn't come in a vacuum. There are so many people who worked on this for so many years. I just happen to be the face of it, and someone who just doesn't stop, but because I believe, I feel like I'm doing my purpose in life. And to do your purpose in life, you also have to have people who believe in you, who believe in the cause that you're doing. So I'm very grateful to each and every one of you who have been with me through the journey as friends, as colleagues, and as board members, advisors, and champions, and really, really the network as a whole. So thank you so much. I want to thank my team, Deborah, Megan, Dan, and Yinka is here, Hatim, and our board, and DA is here today with us, and our Executive Leadership Council. I keep using the word good to see you. It's a word that I used to, these words I used to use every day when I see people in person. Somehow over the last 18 months to 20 months, I think we've got used to each other, to seeing each other through Zoom. I am also very grateful for that technology that enables us to bring each other together. So good to see you, even if it's only virtually. Thank you. So really, this started in 2010. I was very fortunate. I have had incredible access in Silicon Valley to know social entrepreneurs who were really interested in doing good in the world, and especially in the continent of Africa. These are my American, who don't look like me, but American wonderful friends who were trying to make a difference in the continent. And every time I meet them, I will say, why is it that you don't have any Africans sitting with you when you're talking about Africans? So I really wanted to see us represented. When I realized that I was just becoming a pain, I said, maybe this is worth having a conversation. Let me just bring some of my friends who can tell me the truth and at the table and see what they think. So I wrote a concept paper. I loved writing concept papers. There's someone here who knows me. I'm just going to shout out Dave Henderson, who has been my mentor for many years. And he always said to me, you love developing programs, and he knows this. So I love developing concept papers. So I wrote whatever was in my heart. I wrote it out, and I brought 15 people. Of the 15 people, one of them was Dr. Musembi Kanyoro. She was the CEO of Global Fund for Women, and Dan Hartz, who still manages our finance at ADN, and many other people in that room, just for me to share what I was thinking. And of course, everybody said, yeah, sure, if you want to do this, that's fine, it's a good idea. But then later on, I found out they really didn't know what I was talking about. They just want to support me. I think that was very helpful. And then eventually they became my mentors. supporters and funders, and really a board member, both Caniero and Dan Hartz are founding board members. They have been there from the beginning. I'm very grateful to each one of them. Eventually, though, as you start to really convene people, you start to ask yourself, so what does it mean? You have an idea, you've got a concept paper, you're bringing a few people here and there. Where are you going from here? So I went to Washington, D.C. in 2014. I had an award that I was going to receive. It was also the Global African Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. At that time, I attended a conference by the State Department. It was actually called the African Diaspora Investment Symposium. It was run through their own initiative. It was called the International Diaspora Engagement Alliance. It still exists with the US State Department. I went back and said to them, I came back to my office and I said, I got to do this in Silicon Valley. I pitched the idea to the State Department. And then in 2016, we got the first seed funding to help us create the African Diaspora Investment Symposium, which became the cornerstone of all other things that came afterwards. The idea about this symposium was, I really wanted to see the premise, whether Africans and non-Africans can work together, can collaborate, can co-create, co-imagine together. And I have to say, I'm very grateful. 6 years toward the whole African Diaspora Symposium that we've done. The 6th year was in 2020, virtually. And then, of course, the 7th is coming up, and we're hoping to do it. It's going to be hybrid of 5 months of convening through this technology that we're using. And then hopefully in June of 2022, we will all of us get together. So this whole idea had a premise, and I wanted to really see that whether our race and our ethnicity and our religion really plays a role in who we are and what we can do. I always believe that I belong to the community where I live. I really do. Those who know me, they know that I present myself as a human being at the beginning of every conversation. What you do with it is your own choice. I never thought of me as anybody but a human person. And that, I think, is the cornerstone of ADN that really drives me every day to bring people together. I'm very happy to say that many, many, many people we convened over the years has really helped us to be where we are today. Out of the symposium, then we also asked, I asked the board, yeah, we're doing this symposium, we're bringing people. This was in 2018. So what does it mean to Africans in the continent? Then we started something called the Builders of Africa's Future. We identified 10 to 12 grassroots entrepreneurs in the continent. We bring them to the Silicon Valley. We don't promise money because we never have money, but we do promise that they will get connection to other people. And we've done already four Builders of Africa's Future. The last one was virtual because of the times that we're living in, but in the past, we were able to help them come to Silicon Valley. We hope to do the same thing in 2022. What I'm trying to tell you is this whole thing didn't come because I want to. I think it came because many of you supported it and you want it to happen. And then in 2020, we also had a wonderful person from Silicon Valley Community Foundation. She came to see what we were doing. This was the last in-person convening we had, January of 2020. She came to see what we were doing, and she asked, what is it that, do you have a similar program for Africans and diasporans in the United States? And I said, no, we don't, but we would like to do a similar one to the Builders of Africa's Future in the United States. And at the beginning, we started to call it Builders of America's Future, but we didn't make sense at all. So we changed it, and they said, yes, we'll give you a seed funding. We got the seed funding. We had the whole full concept paper developed. And then we start seeking for additional funding. So that seed funding came from Silicon Valley Community Foundation. It helped us to begin the concept. It also helped us to hire a full-time person. So that was very, very helpful in 2020. And then eventually we needed a full funding for the accelerator. We call it Accelerating Black Leadership and Entrepreneurship. I needed to have a champion, and I'm so grateful. I always have champions wherever I go. And for this one, I had a wonderful friend. I'm sorry, Helen, but I'm just going to shout out. I had my friend, Helen Kim, who also helped me when she was at eBay. with Bill.com, and she proposed the idea to Bill.com, and I think the rest is history because we got a full funding to even hire a full-time person to run the Accelerating Black Leadership and Entrepreneurship Program, which you will hear as we go through the day. And then we also have the Impact and Innovation Forums that we do in Silicon Valley, in New York, and Washington, D.C. But of course, during the Zoom, we continue to convene through webinars. Every single aspect of what we've done, and Megan, do you mind going to the next one? Everything that I mentioned to you was only possible. You can see the partial donors list here, and the full is on our website. But I want to start by Global Fund for Women, who believed in us at the beginning and giving us the funding and continue to give us under the new leadership. Dr. Fred is another wonderful friend of ADN. So we continue to get funding from foundations, from individuals, and from corporations in the form of sponsorship. And there are many different programs that we're running, but the programs are running, not many different. We have enough programs, but we have a couple of initiatives that we will share with you as well. So all of this is possible because there is a team, there is a board that believes in it. There are funders who absolutely make this possible. And then of course, I have family who supports me all the time, my wonderful husband, my children who really just believe in what I do and continue to support me for everything that I do. I'm very grateful to each one and every one of you. And I'm just gonna allow right now our board member, Dia, to tell you a little bit about what we do. So this was the beginning, and hopefully you will be able to see the middle and what we are going to do in the future. Thank you. Dia.
All right. Thank you so much, Almaz. It's just amazing, like how much, when you see going through all of these different milestones, how much was accomplished since ADN started. And I just wanted to thank you for your leadership. It's just like fantastic. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Ndai Makalu, and I am a senior director at Genentech, Roche Genentech in San Francisco in the product strategy and the global supply chain organization. As a member of the board of directors of African Diaspora Network, which I actually joined 2 years ago. It's been in November 2019 that I joined this group, Almaz. It's amazing. So it's really an honor to be part of this growing work of this nonprofit organization. One of the things that I'm really very grateful for is how the commitment of the board of ADN. We are really involved throughout the decision-making process and in defining the strategic direction and the development processes of the organization. Governance, accountability, financial responsibility are really core to our work, and we are committed in time and treasure and also talent. It's really something that inspires me every single day, and that's why I have joined this group. And since the start of the pandemic, really, we have been meeting every 6 weeks to ensure that the organization is adapting to the situation and meeting its goal. And during this ongoing pandemic, with everything that that is happening in the world, the board is really very proud of the progress that the ADN has made throughout the year. And with that, what I would like to do is to introduce you, give like a brief overview of ADN before we dive into the impact of our work. As Alma said, ADN was founded in 2010, and it is a Silicon Valley-based nonprofit organization that promotes entrepreneurship and economic development of the African continent and in the community in which we live. So we bring together really African on the continent, but also in the diaspora, but also the Friends of Africa. And we are focusing on 4 strategic areas, which is education, healthcare, connectivity, and finance. So what program do we do, in order to actually carry the strategy through this? We have like the African Diaspora Investment Symposium, which is an annual conference in the Silicon Valley that celebrates and fosters entrepreneurship in the diaspora and the African. Second is the Impact and Innovation Forum, which is also a year-round speaker series in the Silicon Valley, in the Washington, D.C., in New York, and virtually about the diaspora engagement. Almaz talked about the Builders of Africa Future, which is also a session that celebrates innovation and impact in early African enterprise. And last but not least, is the Accelerated Black Leadership and Entrepreneurship. We call it the ABLE program. We're super excited about this. And it is an enterprise accelerator program designed to support small businesses and nonprofit organizations led by Black in the United States. So while the ADN holds the fiduciary and governance responsibility, this program is really supported with the guidance of Executive Advisory Council, and two of the members of whom I am happy to share the stage with today. So you have Roland Pearson and Losken Harley. They will share more on the impact of ADN's program throughout the year. With that, I pass it on to Almaz. Thank you.
Dia, well, I am so happy that you are a part of our board. Genentech has come to be a great supporter of ADN. Really, really wonderful to get this going. And now I have the privilege of just introducing Roland to speak about a little bit of the connectedness between the historical and the contemporary diaspora. Those of you who may not be familiar with that, the historical diaspora, African Americans who have been here for 400 years, whereas the contemporary diaspora, an Eritrean American, came and benefited from their sacrifice. But the good news is that there is always that connectedness that we have to each other. So I thought that Roland can be our great speaker for this one, but Roland he serves on the Executive Leadership Council of ADN. Roland, thank you, and the stage is yours.
Thanks, Almaz. Really appreciate it, and Dia, thank you for your comments as well. Good day to everyone. I'm director of the finance and investment portfolio at Palladium, which is a global international development company. We operate globally and are currently implementing projects that are funded by donors as well as the commercial sector in about 90 different countries. But probably more relevant to the topic of today, and particularly this connectedness, is my own personal sort of connection to the continent, which is really long-standing. I had the fortune very early in life, actually as a preteen, to meet the Reverend Dr. Leon Sullivan, who some of you may know was a leading figure in the anti-apartheid movement beginning really in the late 1960s and into the 1970s. And I met him prior to the '76 riots in South Africa. Clearly the riots further motivated my interest and desire to be involved. That then took shape when I was at Brown University and helped the university to really led a student movement to get them to divest from companies doing business in South Africa. And then finally, by the late 80s, I found myself living and working on the continent. And over a period of about 20 years of living on the continent, I started up and successfully grew and divested from 2 different companies. So in many ways, my own personal connection to Africa and the diaspora has been practically almost lifelong. And I think, I've always seen and been moved by a phrase that you'll hear many talk about in the African American community, particularly through those imbued with the civil rights movement, of standing on shoulders and each one teaching one. And I think that those are values and that really are quite shared. And despite our, if you will, 400 years of difference and the divergence of the, if you will, the Black or African American experience in the United States as it has diverged from Africans on the continent, I think that there always has been, and there is a continuing growing closeness of those 2 communities and a real power to make a difference. And so ADN in many ways for me, which I joined as an executive advisory council member earlier this year, really embodies much of my work, much of my ethos, much of my values. And I think values and an ethos that we're seeing more and more throughout our, as Almaz put it, our historical and contemporary diaspora communities. I think ADN is committed to bringing together Africans, diasporans, and friends of Africa. The programs in particular are deepening and strengthening relationships between people of African descent. And we're going beyond a shared conceptualization of the homeland, but we're really starting to see partnership. I think one example of this is the Africa American Institute, an organization based in New York that embodies what it means for these groups to help one another. AAI is known for its history of African Americans helping Africans come to the United States, including doctors, lawyers, and business leaders. And I think what we're starting to see now is a real transformation of that relationship. It's not just about African Americans helping Africans, but I think it really is more of a shared partnership. I was just in the context of Omicron and COVID and the tragedy of labeling, South Africa as the cause of this latest conflagration of the pandemic and the travel bans and all of that. I was looking at an interview the other day with the head of the health department from St. Louis, who, although it was not stated explicitly during the interview, clearly was a Southern African woman who had moved to the United States and taken on this, and seems as if she's probably married married an American and is living in the heartland of the United States, speaking powerfully, eloquently about not only the tragedy of way the latest variant has been positioned, but also about the science and about the importance of African doctors having been critical to identifying and really coming up with solutions to solve this problem. And so I think that increasingly we're seeing in that example and many others that people of African descent, wherever they may sit, however long they may be here, really are contributing in a two-way fashion. And the Africa Diaspora Network recognizes this significant role of the historical diaspora in making possible the acceptance, movement, and transition of African diasporans to places like the United States. ADN's new program, the Accelerating Black Leadership and Entrepreneurship, the ABLE program, is making sure that its value is inclusive of Black entrepreneurs and giving them access to resources. This new enterprise accelerator is helping Black business leaders from across the United States to scale their ventures through leadership and entrepreneurship training, mentorship, networking, and community building opportunities. The 16 entrepreneurs are rising startups and represent some of the most innovative up-and-coming ventures. Some examples include Crystal Hansley, at We Solar, who brings under-resourced communities affordable access to local community solar and to assist commercial properties with energy efficiency. Quillen Blackwell at Southside Blooms turns empty parking lots in inner cities into blooming flower farms to raise businesses. And Shasha Jumbi at Level for 2 AI develops artificial intelligence technologies for early instantaneous detection of infection and illness, including COVID-19. Now, midway through the program, the entrepreneurs have expressed their gratitude for a community space for co-learning. Dr. Nehemiah J. Mabry of STEM Media said, quote, "It is showing me how to craft my business into a form that is taken more seriously and highly fundable." Another one of the entrepreneurs, Vanessa Duckett of Polite Piggy, said that ABLE is the missing link for me. I realized over these 2 days that I know children and programming to the pro level, but I'm a novice at business. I'm absorbing so much in our sessions and will help my organization evolve and me as a business leader. Another program, ABLE, ABLE didn't really, though, happen in a vacuum. It's important to acknowledge the power of convening and bringing people together. And that is, ABLE was an idea conceived in January 2020 at the Africa Diaspora Investment Symposium. I think so often, conferences and where lots of people get together are kind of seen as, yeah, it was great to convene and meet a few people, but oftentimes their impact is not really seen. Well, we're seeing it in the form of ABLE having come of those conversations out of the last investment symposium, and we're looking forward to more impact from upcoming ones. The Africa Diaspora Investment Symposium is an annual conference in Silicon Valley and celebrates and fosters the entrepreneurial and innovative spirit of Africans in the diaspora and friends of Africa. ADIS is known to be a nexus of collaboration and ideation, and a place where collaborations and partnerships are sparked. The founding board and co-chair of ADN, Dr. Musimbi Kanyoro, said, quote, "Every time I'm at ADN, I see a new future for Africa. ADN is the place to find talents and boldness of entrepreneurs, the articulate passion and compassion for a continent that deserves to be seen and heard in new ways. ADN forums are an experience that no other person can tell you about." Finally, I just want to point out that witnessing how ADN recognizes, amplifies, and provides opportunities for African organizations to pitch for funding, the question came as to whether ADN had a program dedicated to Black entrepreneurs in the United States. At the time, there wasn't, but ADN took this idea at ADIS seriously, and in a year's time, ADN secured a number of funders, ecosystem partners, and champions, including Bill.com, Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and the California Black Freedom Fund, and the County of Santa Clara, to fund and move ADIS forward to create the ABLE program. So convening is important to ADN's strategy, which is why we're all here today. I thank you as part of the ADN, and I leave my fellow advisory council member Laksan to share more on our final 2 ADN programs.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Laksan, it's you.
Thank you, Almaz. Thank you, Roland. And first and foremost, may I just say how delighted I am to be associated with such an exciting and innovative network that is ADN. And it's a real pleasure to be joining you here today. So I'm going to start by just sharing a few thoughts about the broader context here before relating that to some of the fantastic work that ADN has done recently, particularly in the last year, with the programs we haven't talked so much about yet, Builders of Africa's Future and the Impact and Innovation Forums. As I know very well from my work, and as I'm sure many of you also know, African diaspora engagement has proved so valuable for the continent. And I believe we're only scratching the surface here. As many of you know, the African diaspora, including its huge and very global historic diaspora that Roland was talking about, is rightly recognized by the African Union and others as the continent's 6th region. Now, we all know how important diaspora remittances are and how they often exceed foreign direct investment to Africa, reaching $42 billion in 2020. But Africans across the world have so much more to offer than dollars alone. They invest not only their money, but also their time, their skills, their networks. And they do so not only in their communities of origin and their communities of heritage, but also in the communities where they now reside. So, and according to the New American Economy, African migrants earned more than $133 billion in 2018 alone, paid almost $36 billion in taxes, and had a spending power of nearly $98 billion. And their investment takes the form of funding, as we discussed, time through mentorship and networking, and the dedication of leaders and programs that serve as a catalyst for communities across the continent. And such programs include those that ADN implements. And I'm going to talk about Builders of Africa's Future and the Impact and Innovation Forums in particular. So in terms of Builders of Africa's Future, the BAF program, it's another idea that began as a result of this famous Addis symposium. And since 2018, ADN has recognized and awarded 42 grassroots African entrepreneurs and provided them with training, mentorship, and the opportunity to pitch to Silicon Valley investors. In January of 2020, the BAF's cohort came to Silicon Valley and engaged in a full-day workshop hosted by eBay and the Miller Center for Entrepreneurship at Santa Clara University. And each awardee was paired with a mentor and participated in a training to prepare their pitches for the Addis symposium. The one-on-one pitch practice sessions provided each BAF mentee with the opportunity to receive constructive feedback and refine their presentations. And then after the training, the BAF mentees joined a kickoff meeting at the eBay headquarters. Now, just to give you a sense of some of the impact that this is translated into for the participants, we have one of the members of the class of BAF class of 2020, Nkanyiso Madala, I'm probably pronouncing that very wrong, but he's founder and CEO of Energy Efficiency Limited. And he said about his experience that being part of the ADN network has meant a lot. We have grown and we have impacted. We were able to get help from one of their funders, the WISE Fund, and we were able to impact 200,000 people. And it's been a great experience. What a wonderful quote. And another, Tabitha, who you also see on your screen, said, through the ADN network, I gained access to mentorship from Michael of Johnson & Johnson. I also got introductions for possible partnership opportunities, and I got increased visibility for my business that paved the way for me to be selected as one of the best 200 businesses in Nigeria for the first ever digital startup accelerator by Forbes International. What a phenomenal achievement. And in addition to the BAF program, ADN has also hosted a series of convenings. Well, we've talked a lot about convenings, and this is yet another example of that. But a series of convenings to give voice and visibility to the impact that the diaspora makes. And it's done that in particular through the Impact and Innovation Forums. And this year, one of the forums was ADN's first side event for the United States General Assembly in September on the topic of leveraging the diaspora for the benefit of households and national economies in countries of origin and destination. And the talk heightened awareness and interest in global African diaspora engagement, especially on the topic of remittances and investments and how they benefit families and communities alike. And these discussions, and I've also been lucky enough to witness some of the forums myself and found them so useful and valuable, have sparked new collaborations. And this is another great example. In April 2020, ADN hosted a forum on healthcare innovation and investment in Africa. How timely was that? It took place, as you know, shortly after the onset of the pandemic. And the conversation sparked interest in next steps and actions to address the shortage of health professionals across the continent. And directly following on from these initial discussions, ADN is delighted to share that they have secured seed funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for a telehealth pilot project that expands digitized health services by mobilizing the diaspora. Now, the trajectory of ADN includes taking action through initiatives like these, while also continuing the regular programs and convenings that build relationships and trust, that foster dialogue relevant to the times, and ensure that the right ideas continue to emerge. Thank you very much for listening to me today, for joining us, and I'll hand back over to Almaz to continue this lovely convening. Thank you.
Laxan, thank you so much with your expertise in diaspora engagement and the work that you do. You understand the contribution of the diaspora. I was just going to say, Laxan, that yesterday, Deborah and I, we had a meeting with a corporation here in the United States, and the question came about philanthropy, that Africans from the diaspora may not be seen as philanthropists, but I actually argued the other way around, and I said the most generous philanthropist in the United States of any origin that I know are the diasporans. Any diaspora, not only just African diaspora, any diaspora, the way in which we show our generosity is through remittances. For example, in many African countries, if you stop sending remittances today, their economy will crash. So I actually think in many ways the diaspora, whether Africans or Asians or other diasporans, they are the force to be reckoned with because they make so much difference. It just happens to be in transaction that does not require any giving back. It goes straight to the family and to the community. So really thank you for mentioning the kind of contribution that the African diaspora in this case make to their home countries and then the communities in which we live. So thank you, Laxan. I'm going to give the next opportunity for Deborah to talk about a couple of our initiatives, and then we'll ask you to give us some insight about what we can do in the future. Deborah?
All right, hello everyone. My name is Deborah Pasio, and I am a program manager with the African Diaspora Network. And today, many of you have joined us because you are a funder, a collaborator, an ecosystem partner, a network member, a supporter of the organization, or even a program participant. In fact, I see a few of our able entrepreneurs on the call today, and we're happy to have all of these individuals here. For many of you are here, and because of your belief, support, and dedication, our work is made possible. And I want to talk a little bit about the impact that you've made through your supports. We have, and I'm just going to share my screen. We have a bit of a mapping to sort of outline what you've helped us to make possible in the past year. And through the 4 programs that Roland and Loxon and Ende have described, I just wanted to point out a few highlights. Through our flagship event, the African Diaspora Investment Symposium, we've gathered 38 speakers, had 7 sessions through this virtual year with over 3,000 registrants. And out of those, we've had over 2,000 attendees, which is an amazing rate of attendance to registration. We have also, for our Builders of Africa's Future this year, we have proudly awarded and recognized 11 out of 190 applicants. And this has been made possible through the ecosystem partners that have helped to source talent from across the continent and nominated individuals. Similarly, we've had 23 ecosystem partners across the United States helping us bring in over 107 applicants for the Accelerating Black Leadership and Entrepreneurship programs. And we have awarded 16 phenomenal entrepreneurs for this year's inaugural cohort. And last but certainly not least, for the Impact and Innovation Forums, we've had 17 speakers over 7 sessions with 681 attendees out of 984 registrants. And this has been fantastic work made possible in this year, in addition to the launch of a few new initiatives. So African Diaspora Network, we are grateful to have our ongoing programs along with sparking new opportunities for us to really make an impact in different areas. Start Your Social Enterprise, as you can see here, is a part of Builders of Africa's Future. This is an initiative funded by the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation to support those on the continent who really reach the most underserved communities and difficult to reach areas. And our population participating in this program thus far are the Catholic Sisters. We have 12 of them participating and being trained by the African Management Institute of Kenya. With that, we've had about 2 sessions so far with them, and they have a graduation planned in February with the goal of having at least 3 of these sisters eligible for Builders of Africa's Future. The program really focuses on transitioning them from charity models of development to a sustainable social enterprise model. In addition, our second initiative, Loxon pointed out that this was sparked as well. this past year with funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Really, the goal of this ADIA telehealth pilot is to expand digitized healthcare services by really mobilizing African medical professionals abroad. So not just in the United States, but with the potential to really be global. And we are in the process of convening, and we have our initiative lead here, Hatim Chaudhry. He is on our call. And we're grateful to have his leadership in really helping to bring together the program pilot, the pilot advisory committee, and all of the stakeholders and ecosystem partners. And Hatim, would you like to say hello for a moment?
Sure. I think my connection is a little unstable, but nice to meet everyone. Very excited to be part of ADN. Everything I've heard so far is whatever you hear right now is actually true. It's a very exciting time for Africa, and it's a very exciting time for the connection to the Silicon Valley. So I'm excited to be part of the team, and I'm excited to be part of that project. And feel free to reach out if you wanna contribute in any way. If you have ideas, we would love your input. So I'll put my email on the chat. So happy to have any input and to speak to any of you about this great initiative.
Thank you, Hatim. And these are just steps in our path ahead. And I'll give this back to Almaz to elaborate on what that path ahead looks like.
Thanks, Deborah. Thank you, Hatim. Good to have you as well. I think what's great about having Hatim is also he is originally from Morocco, and so engaging the entire continent and really bringing our northern part of Africa as part of this convening is very important, and look forward to working with Hatim. He has a life science background, so the telehealth project is really pretty much in good hands. So thank you. I wanted to just summarize by saying this. We have done what we can so far. That does not mean what we do is always right or we're always on target, but here's what I know we do. We are the most hardworking people you will ever meet. My team is overworked and really always producing what needs to be done for the community. Funding for programs is one thing, but funding for organizations, unrestricted funding is different. So we do have program funding. I'm going to continue to ask and continue to advocate for African diaspora to have an equal footing in terms of general funding, funding that would enable us to do the convening that really brings us together. I do believe in building relationship. Without building relationship, trust doesn't really come. So actually, these two things are very critical and they're cornerstone of ADN. So we continue to work with you, and I look forward to really partnering with many of you and seeing what you're doing and what you've been able to help us to achieve. A lot of what we do is your vision. Those of you who fund us, we really are living the vision that you shared with us, that it is what you want to see happen in the community. We have tremendous appreciation for our partners at Santa Clara University, at George Washington University, the Stanford Seed, and many that I can count on that give us insight on a regular basis to make what we do possible. It's not just only money, but the intellectual support that we receive is just as great. So with that, I wanted to just leave it open. And if anyone has a question, please ask.
I don't know if I have a question, Almaz. It's great seeing you, but I definitely will at least come off mute and just say that the impact and the stories of everything that you guys are doing are phenomenal. So of course, huge kudos to you and the team on a great year, and I'm very much excited to see where things go. I know you guys mentioned people who are part of the ABLE program. I am one of those individuals, so I can definitely attest to that. So continue the amazing work.
Jared, thank you so much. I'm so proud of each one of you and everyone who knows through the committee that runs the ABLE program. They know how much of my heart is soft for all of you. And you know, in the back of my mind and in front every single day, I'm trying to raise money for it. Let me just say, because Jared came out, we have $70,000 seed funding we've received from Bill.com. and also from the CEO of Bill.com, Rene and his family, to raise additional funding to help to give out this money at the graduation in February to the 16 entrepreneurs in the program. Let me tell you why I feel very fortunate to say this to all of you, but also really compelled to tell you this. Every program at ADN matters, but this one really makes me live my value, because we're not just talking about the diaspora like myself who came here and to try to do things, but also African Americans. So the idea right now is what we're trying to do is give them at least some money for the amount of time that they are spending to go through the training at Santa Clara University. For every leader, you all know this, every time we are away from our desk to do something else, there is an opportunity cost. For these entrepreneurs, the opportunity cost is the money that they could have earned by when they spend 16 hours per month to go through the training. So I'm really, really excited. We're raising funds for that, and I'm hoping Giving Tuesday will be a wonderful opportunity for all of you. There is a drop-down menu within our own giving site, the Support ADN. You can choose who you want to give it to. And so please support these entrepreneurs. So Jared, I am all overjoyed by all of you, and thank you, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that you get what you can from the communities where we live in Silicon Valley, one of the richest regions in the world. There is no reason why we cannot support Black entrepreneurs and other minorities simply because they were not there. Now they are in a pipeline that no one can say there aren't that many Africans that we can support or African Americans we can support. That excuse must go away, and I will do everything I can to support in any way possible with the support of our communities, of course. So thank you, Jared. Any other questions?
Hi, Almaz Akisi here with Wonder Grubs. Just wondering as well, are there additional things that we can do to promote and help support the program, and, to increase brand awareness and the mission of the program and what you're doing, not just ABLE, but also just ADN as well at large?
Thank you, Akisi. So good to see you. Yes, please help us out. I know that we have a lot of different ways to engage you, but there are banners that you can share, and definitely, Akisi, we will send you ways in which you can amplify the work we do. We are the most unknown small organization committed to doing the work of our community. I'm very proud of what we do, but we still have a long way to go to ensure that funding is equitable for entrepreneurs, regardless of what our race is, simply because of the work we do. The 16 entrepreneurs that you are a part of, Akisi and Jared and all of you, it really does represent the country as a whole. You're not coming just from Silicon Valley. In fact, we only have one from Silicon Valley. The rest of you come from all over the United States. That in itself should enable and should allow funders to give you, simply because you will be able to hire people, you will be able to scale your work and support the communities also where you live in. So I'm very excited, but thank you. We will send you some information that you can help us share and amplify the work we do. Thank you.